Welcome to the Mindset Mirror Connection podcast. In today's episode, we're going to ask the hard question. Are you really ready for a fat loss phase? You know, that cut that you want. You want to cut your calories. In our experience, it actually takes a lot to build a foundation around doing this successfully and in the right way. So if you're ready, listen up and lean in as we elevate your mind. Hola.
Hola, ¿cómo está?
¿Cómo está?
Well, that's right, you don't know Spanish.
Muy bien. ¿Y tú?
Estoy bien.
Estoy bien. ¿Y tú?
Nada más, nada más.
Es mi perros.
Oh my God, I was like, your dogs?
That's all I know.
Yeah.
Right? Well, I know some raunchy shit, but we'll leave that for later. I'm not going to tell you on this pod.
Okay.
Tell you later, alligator. So
you're in a hotel.
This is a great, yes, I'm hotel living, baby. Let me tell you about how I'm eating. So first and foremost, thank God for Mark Hathaway because he has Hilton status. Okay. Because when he comes here, he stays at this hotel. And we get 15.
His office is there.
Yes. So he comes here at least once a quarter. So we get $15 in food credit per day. So we can decide what we want to use that on. Sunday, when did we get here? Saturday, we used it on breakfast. And then we went out and had lunch and dinner. No, we brought dinner back. Yesterday, we went to town hall and then we bought little wraps for lunch. Anyway, but we can't just eat. I mean, we can eat out for every meal, but we don't want to. So this is what we did. Want everyone to listen to this who either travels for work or wants to kind of have some sense of control when they're in a hotel room. If you have a mini fridge and a microwave, which most hotels have a mini fridge and a microwave, right?
Mm-hmm.
I make egg white oats in the microwave.
Yep.
So got some packets of oats. You can also get the individual oats. And I got the little carton of egg whites. Mix that baby up. I got, every hotel usually has some fruit lying around, some banana, or you can just get it when you go get your egg whites. And peanut butter. Mix that up. I make that at home. I don't usually make the oats. I usually make the oats and the egg whites separate and I put them together. Some people put egg whites in their oats and make them.
Egg whites in my oats.
Yes. So do you do them, you cook them together or do you cook them separately and put them together?
Cook them together. Okay.
So I'm basically doing that and it was good. It was good. And then I had my little wrap for lunch. We also have we went to the store, of course, but we could only have so much in this mini fridge, guys. Right. So we have roasted chicken. So like a shredded chicken, turkey meat, right? Some yogurts and some Fairlife shakes. That's it. Oh, and blueberries. Because, I love blueberries. So then you have to get creative what you can have outside, right? So obviously you need bread. And we have sliced cheese for sandwiches. Yeah. We got some popcorn. We have some baked chips.
You could do jasmine rice or like the rice in the bag stuff.
Oh, we have rice. We have rice cups. Good call.
Tortillas.
Beef jerky. Tortillas. We have tortillas. Trying to remember some of the stuff we had with us, but I think we'll be okay, especially with the $15 credit. So like at least once a day I can go get like a sandwich or if I want to get breakfast from them and not do I'm pretty set on the oats for the week because I'm going to be here for another 2 days. So I'm going to be okay. And then when we go to the Virgin, we might still do that, but it's our anniversary. So we might just eat out. The Virgin Hotel.
Oh, you're in Tulsa?
Nashville.
No, Nashville.
Nashville.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm like, where are you guys?
After Adrian's wedding, I told myself I will always stay at a Virgin hotel if it's available because they're freaking
Really?
awesome. Yeah,
That's
I
so
love them. They have this like separate sitting room with a vanity and your closet, which a door closes. So with the dogs, it's even better. So it's another separation from the hallway. So, oh, speaking of
um,
separation and dogs and hotels, we got a nanny cam
ooh.
for someone named Brooklyn Hathaway,
How's she
who
doing?
Oh, for those who don't know, my dog had an episode, 2 episodes at night. She's the 15-year-old that always used to show her butt when we were side by side in our pod
Uh-huh.
studio. She's good. I
Really?
don't know what happened. I don't know what happened. She had these full-blown panicky attacks. Not panic attacks because they were different than her panic attacks because she's had those too. And she couldn't she the weird thing about it was she came to cuddle with me right before it would happen, and she doesn't cuddle me at night. She'll sleep between my legs, she'll sleep at our feet, or she'll sleep between Mark's legs, sometimes on his head. She's a boxer mix, by the way. She is not a small dog. So she'd come and cuddle me like small spoon position or
Uh-huh.
little spoon, whatever you call it. And then she'd be like, and so I at like midnight when she started, I was able to contact the telemed doc.
Yeah.
Did we talk about this? I don't think we did.
Not on the
Not on pod.
podcast.
Yeah. And she was able to see her. She goes, I think it's her heart. I think you need to take her to the ER. And I was like in the middle of nowhere. So I couldn't do that. She's making weird noises right now.
Yeah.
Took her to the ER the next morning when it opened. Like, you're not an ER then if you stupid. Anyway, they did all the tests. They're like, she's perfectly fine. She's one of the healthiest 14-year-old dogs I've ever seen in my life. You need to go to a specialist because it could be something we can't see. And I'm like, you know what? If it's something you can see, and she's gonna die soon.
Yeah.
So what are we gonna do? Spend all this money for what? An extra 2 months? Like, if she's in pain and this continues, then yes, we'll go see the specialist. But she's been fine.
Yeah, of course. You're like,
You
oh,
know, she, so again, hotel, 21st floor, down the elevators, across the hotel, there's no fucking dog pad at this hotel. Hilton, do better. If you're going to be it, we love you for being dog friendly, but have a doggy, like run somewhere. You got to go
just
across the street
grass.
to the Hyatt next door, who guess
Oh.
what? Has one in the front. Thank you, Hyatt, for that. But this poor Boo Bear, she it's a very slow pace back.
Yeah.
So I got one dog this way, literally. My arms, one's in front and one's in back, and I'm just like walking them. Like, oh, babies. But adventures, hotel adventures with the Hathaways.
I know. We're gonna have a hotel adventure here this week.
Yeah,
I'm
proud of you.
by the time this comes out. So
yeah,
we'll see
Colorado, baby.
The same pickleball team. I was like, okay.
Wait, what?
Yeah, I guess like the family, because so Michael and his family, they're doing like a big family get together for the 4th of July at this hotel. And they have pickleball. So we're gonna do like a pickleball tournament, which
My
I'm like,
in-laws are so into pickleball.
yeah, I'm semi glad that I'm on his team because I thought there's a couple other cousins and his brother, well, and probably his sister-in-law too, who were all very competitive people. So I thought like, oh, like please don't put me like with one of like as I would be fine with one of them, but please don't put me with one of them because then I'll take it too seriously. And I need to know, like, so yeah, I guess Michael and I are on a team. That'll be fine. I don't really know what we're gonna do. So I'm just there.
Where in Colorado?
Colorado Springs. I know.
It's just outside of Denver.
Yeah. So we'll hang out. I'm not part of the planning committee. So
it's kind of funny. Like we come back in 2 weeks and then you're like gone.
I know. Well, not really. Just a little bit. Because you come back when?
Not this Sunday, but the following Sunday. Well, that may not be true. Sometime between
The 14th and 21st.
Correct.
Yeah.
And then the last weekend of the month, I'm in Vegas, but you're in somewhere. Huntington?
Last weekend? I'm not in Huntington till August.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
God, it's already August, man.
Yeah, isn't that wild?
Craziness. Oh, update.
Yeah.
Update.
On.
The girl from the twin from Dancing with the Devil posted
Oh.
on her Instagram.
Oh. I started
Yeah.
watching that. Did I tell you that?
Yes.
Yeah.
You didn't watch the whole thing?
No, I didn't finish it. I figured I got the
Okay.
gist enough.
So she said that now she's getting death threats.
I bet.
But okay.
What's her name? Look.
I don't know, Wilking, Miranda, but that's not her name now. It's something else. Why would she get death threats? She didn't do anything. I think he's doing it to her. I think Robert's the one trolling, trying to make it seem like life outside is scary. Why would anyone send death threats to them?
I mean, people, yeah, I am not surprised that they are, though.
Like, everyone who talked about her in the podcast was speaking kindly of her. Like, they love her. And I think he's trying to make it seem like, oh, see what your parents and your sister did, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And she doesn't know that because she probably didn't even watch the podcast or the
episodes
thingy documentary. Yeah.
So is that, I was going to say cult leader, but I will say preacher still alive?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And the LAPD, come on, LAPD, chop, chop.
You know what I watched? Oh, I told you because I was going to tell you that. I was going to text. It's called Tell Me You Love Me.
Yes. Did you watch it?
I did watch it. I need you to watch it from a therapy standpoint. Because do you know what it's about?
You told me. So Amanda texted me this.
Yeah, I was like, have you seen this movie? It's a documentary about this.
Oh, it's a documentary?
Documentary.
Oh, I thought it was a scripted series. Oh, yeah. I'm on top of that shit.
I heard, like, I was listening to this, one of the executive producers was on a podcast and he was talking about it. And I was like, this sounds really weird. I'm going to watch it. So it's essentially about this academic lady who does a lot of studies like race, culture, society, disabilities. Yes. And so that is what her education is based off of. And
wait, I saw this. That's where I saw it. It was her talking about it.
Yes. And so she essentially one of our students has a brother who is mentally handicapped and very disabled. I think he was born with cerebral palsy. And so, yeah. So there's this thing, and actually I need to ask, because I have 2 clients who are speech therapists, so I need to talk to them about this. So there's this, it's called functional communication. I think that's the word. And what it is, essentially, you're typing to communicate instead of verbally communicating. And the thought is that people who maybe can't verbally communicate do have ways of communication. We just need to access that and show them, like, almost like sign language, right? Like, so just because they can't speak or hear, they can still communicate, and we just need to figure out which modality that works for them. So the student goes up to the academic gal and he's like, I've got a brother that I think could really like work with this. And she said, let's try it, and we'll figure it out. Well, the academic and the brother, a supposed mentally delayed, mentally handicapped gentleman fall in love. And it's a story essentially of, did she guide this relationship because of like a fantasy that she built up in her head? Or does he actually have access to that kind of knowledge and language? He's just stuck in a body that restricts him. So it becomes a battle between her and the family. And it's really odd because it's like, if some of the stuff, like there's some trigger warning, some like context of rape in there because he's not able to consent, or the way he consented was by her guidance of the hand. And so it's really like, it just question like, this is odd.
So I haven't seen it, so please do not come after me, anyone. I will watch it. However, now it wasn't cerebral palsy. It was a mentally delayed gal. She was 19, but I saw her in a adolescent facility, and she wanted to have sex, and
Yep.
she wanted to have a boyfriend. And she was, when I spoke with her, very understanding of what it was. And we talked about protection and we talked about all the things, but her family was like, absolutely not. And I'm like, she was higher functioning, of
Uh,
course. However, there is that stigma. Like, haven't you seen The Other Sister, the movie?
yes, with what's her face? It's an old movie.
Daniel. I love
And
that movie.
oh man, that's an
Yeah.
old like 90s, huh?
Yeah. Well, and it's that same idea. Now, I have not seen this movie, so I'll be interested to see if that's a bit different, but it does create that, are we treating people with disabilities
Yes.
as children when he may be able to feel the emotion of connection and love without being able to say the words? Because I've told you guys a story of Mark not being able to say the words, but I felt loved by him.
Yes.
His actions showed me love. Now, there's that part though. Could he act upon it?
So here's the interesting plot twist to that is, and this was one of the things that the executive producer I heard was getting interviewed about. It was the family, the academic, we'll call her, felt like the family was holding him back, like you're talking
Mhm.
about, and they were still seeing him in this restricted role. And she's like, you guys have this inadequate perception of him. Like he actually has a lot more internally than what you're letting be let on. But then there was the thought, so like I guess his mother, and this goes towards the end, and so trigger warning, the mother had caught him doing things to himself for pleasure that
Mhm.
he hadn't done before after he had been with this gal.
Oh.
And so the mother too is a very big, I think she's Baptist or very religious too. And so the
Mm.
executive producer made the comment of like, it's kind of unreasonable to think that at some point this 30, 40 plus year old man wouldn't do that. So is
Mhm.
she just now seeing it for the first time and realizing it? Or is it like truly because of this woman and the experience that he had with her? But to think like
Mm.
this guy hasn't touched himself with whatever level of cognition he has is pretty unrealistic too.
Yeah.
So, and she was like, when they were interviewing her, she was like disgusted by it. And I'm thinking like, I mean, like that, like for example, with Down syndrome, there's a huge issue, or not issue, I don't want to say, but a huge thing to be aware of, that they like to have sex and engage in intercourse. And so
Right.
it, instead of saying like, no, they don't, like, let's talk, like you said, about safe practices with it and consent and how to move
Mhm.
forward. What is love? What is just sex? A female
Mhm.
biological function. So that was because
Mhm.
there's like the race, disability, and then religion undertones throughout this documentary.
Oh, sounds good. I'm gonna watch it. I'm gonna watch that and the Sherry Papini.
The Sherry Papini?
It's on Hulu. She's the gal who did like the Complete Gone Girl, where she like tore her hair out with her. Yeah. I
Oh!
guess she's out of prison now and she
Oh,
has a new
great.
boyfriend. Yeah. I was listening to a pod about that and I was like, ooh, because I thought when I saw it on Hulu, I was like, oh, I already know the story.
Yeah,
Oh
of
no, it's the
course we
after
did.
story.
I watched
After
Fight
story.
Club this weekend too. I've never seen Fight Club. Have you?
Probably, but I was just like,
No. Was
yeah.
underwhelming. I was like, "This is weird."
Yeah. I just have a weird, I don't like to see people beat each other up.
Me either. Like, it was so gruesome, and I was like, "Why do you gotta show this?"
I mean, I used to be like, I had a boyfriend who was into like MMA, and
Oof.
I watched that for a while. And I'm like, why am I watching this?
Yeah, I don't like
Why?
that. That's why when
Ick.
people get together, like, "We're gonna watch the MMA fight. You wanna come?" I'm like, "No, I'm okay. I'll
No,
leave."
I'm good.
Yeah, I
I'll
wanna
just
see.
hang out and watch Bravo.
Hello, listeners. Coach Amanda here. For July, we are letting you know that our August cohort of the Mindset of Mommy's 8-week program is launching. So, for this program, we are going to focus on your health before and during pregnancy through education, support, and confidence. In this program, you can expect to have more confidence for pregnancy by learning the benefits of movement and having a structured program to follow. The program will be 2 to 3 days per week, along with beginner and advanced movement options. In this program, you can also expect to increase your nutrition quality with personalized coaching from yours truly. We'll gain awareness to the changes you'll experience mentally, physically, and emotionally during pregnancy, create a strong network of support by learning about a diverse range of professionals to include in your health during this time, as well as gain education on testing done throughout pregnancy. There'll also be a toolkit of resources that includes PDF documents, additional literature that I recommend, podcasts, and social media pages that support your healthiest pregnancy yet. On top of this, you'll get weekly community group calls, weekly written reviews, and our private forum to engage with other like-minded women. You can sign up for this program today for $3.99, and we will start our August cohort August 5th. So if you're interested, please visit mindsetofmommies.com to get more information and to sign up.
Let's talk about kind of, let's just give people who don't understand what we mean by fat loss phase an understanding of that. What would you say?
How would we define a fat loss phase?
Yeah.
Actually, I would define a got it. I would define a fat loss phase as in an intentional time that you're trying to focus on revealing lean body mass.
I like it.
Yeah, as it you could say as an intentional time you're trying to lose weight. But what I think a lot of people don't realize what they're actually wanting is to show the structure of their body.
Lean structure, right?
So that's if I had to put it in like clinical terms, I would say that.
Well, and clinically, from a calorie surplus, it's negative energy balance, right?
Yes.
And so you are burning X amount and you are eating, 250 to 500 calories less than that total amount, which equates to you losing weight. Now, we have to realize that weight on the scale could be water, could be muscle, could be fat. So we say fat loss phase because that's how we do it. We help people lose body fat to expose the muscle that in the preparation phases that we'll talk about that they've built when living at maintenance. Oftentimes people think that they are going to lose this weight and build muscle at the same time. That's not a thing. So I wanted to talk about just what are the steps, both mentally and physically, emotionally, that we want to have in place before we go into a cut, and then the expectations and the things that we should not look forward to because it's not fun, but the things we need to be aware that we have to do in order to see progress and or adjust our expectations. So the first one is, and this is big for you, is we have our clients live at maintenance for a good amount of time, right?
Yeah.
Now, maintenance, again, is energy balance where we're not, energy in and energy out is roughly the same. And for majority of our clients, they've never lived at maintenance, or they just have done it in a weird way where they have like 4 days of restrictive eating and 3 days of binging that ends up totaling on average for the week their maintenance calories, right? But it's not been a steady amount of eating what your body needs. And the reason why this is important is obviously you've never done it before. So it brings your body to kind of this homeostatic place and lets it chill out for a little bit. But this is your jam. So why don't you jam on it? Jam on it.
My jam is forcing people to be uncomfortable at maintenance, I guess.
Yes. And eat more.
Yeah, that is actually my jam. So for my people, I tell them usually when they sign on with us, like, look, I know you want to lose weight. We will, but you got to eat at maintenance. And I've had clients who have recognized that they, like how you were talking about before, is like, oh, I essentially was eating at maintenance because I was restricting and then binging and then restricting and binging. And so I'm ready. And I've been like, no, I need like a mental at maintenance too. So not just I'm physically at maintenance with my nutrition intake, but mentally I'm not focusing on that scale continually going down. I'm focusing on, if I am using the scale, the fluctuations to learn like, oh, this is what my body does after I drink. This is what my body does after I have like a later meal or a high carb day.
Or my cycle. Right.
Yeah. Or I'm on my cycle is a good one too. So learning that. And people get very antsy to go into the weight loss phase too, because they go like, okay, well, I've been doing it for a month. Like, when do we do it? And I'm like, we don't. We keep going. And so it's unfortunate, and I'm sure a lot of clients, or not a lot, I'm sure there are some out there who that almost turns them off. But I'm doing it out of a place of you haven't done this before. So
Right.
my
Well,
only
and we
mistake.
have to, right. Well, you have to realize, they're coming to us with that struggle,
Yeah, like I've done
right?
everything and I don't know what else to do. And
Nothing's working.
and what I also say too is like, I want you to see how much you can truly eat and take
Mhm.
away that fear of eating more, because there is a huge fear. I'm going to eat more. I'm going to eat more. But it's
I'm gonna gain
explaining,
weight.
and I'm going to gain weight. But there's explaining to them too that, okay, so you're always going to eat less, right? So if you're
Mhm.
always going to eat less, then what happens when it has to be even less and less and less? Like, where does that
Mhm.
turn? So when you can see how much you can eat, then it usually takes away that binge and restrict cycle, because you're
Correct.
satisfied,
Yes.
right? Or you feel like, oh,
Mhm.
I have the cake, but it's okay because on average for my week, I evened out at my
Right.
maintenance calories too. So I don't feel like this left out, or like, oh, fuck it, I'm just going to have it.
Right. That is such an important point, is
Mhm.
when we are able to eat at maintenance with a coach there to help us understand, that concept of sustainable eating versus, good versus bad, and allowing us to eat those pleasurable foods, doing it in a way that serves our body. Like, this is much easier to do, you guys, at maintenance and in this prep phase.
Yeah.
You have more room. You understand the goal, right? So the goal is, I'm not gaining weight, I'm not losing weight. So, I have this cake, and that's still true for me, right? So we're also debunking a lot of this good versus bad mentality in this preparation phase. It's also you touch on this too. It's a lot easier when, say that I do need you to track food because you've
Mhm.
never done it before. A lot of people shit on tracking, even though it's very much an educational tool. It's very much an educational tool. A lot of people get very distorted with it, which is an issue in itself. But if we look at, bank account, and looking at your bank account, what's going in, what's coming out, what bills I have, whatever, tracking supports that. But also tracking allows us to see how many what a serving of chicken is, right?
Yeah.
What a serving of rice is, what a
Or
serving
you
of
could
some of
say,
these higher fat.
if you're having tortilla chips, what that actually looks like calorically. Like,
Yeah, which we've talked about.
learning the value
Mhm.
of, hey, 5 tortilla chips does not equal 5 calories. It actually equals like 100, right?
Right,
Instead of,
exactly. Yeah. No, and when you can have, so say your maintenance is 2,000 calories, it's much easier to navigate tracking than also navigating, how do I get whole foods in, right? Navigating having those treats. That can be really difficult if you just jump right into a fat loss phase and you're trying to navigate, now I can't eat as much and I'm also trying to do these things, which normally you're not. But if you say somehow, maybe you listen to us and you are thinking, oh, I also need to work on my mental health and not binge and restrict. Also, when you're in the preparation or maintenance phase, you're going to have more energy to make better decisions. You're going to have more energy to stop the good versus bad, the all or nothing thinking. And so if you have not gone through a maintenance phase and created stability in, or consistency in, tracking your food, eating in that sustainable eating way. So again, majority of your foods being both nourishing and pleasurable. Foods that are nourishing, learning how to make them so they taste good, and foods that are pleasurable, learning how to eat the portion that makes you feel good, and reducing the foods that for you are not pleasurable nor nourishing, right? If you're not doing that, then you're not ready for a fat loss phase.
and I
You
think
know?
you're touching on it, but I want to make it a highlight point of, if you haven't resolved the emotional, mental
Mhm.
turmoil of these aspects of the all or nothing, the fuck it, the binge restrict, I'm going to use a cut or a weight loss phase, AKA they're interchangeable, as a way to feel better in myself. Like those are thinking like that the cut will solve body image issues or will solve relationship issues, any of that. That's not the appropriate time to use a cut or the appropriate thing to use a cut for.
Right.
So the maintenance phase is, think of it of like maintenance for mental health, really. So you can see how much you can eat, so you don't have this binge restrict. And then also, like we'll talk about later in how to do this and some tricks of swaps, like learning, okay, so like you said, tracking my chicken thigh has value because I can see the fat content and then the protein content. But then what if I switch to chicken breast tomorrow or the following week? Well, now I can see the difference between the fat content and the protein content. And then, okay, that's an easy swap when we do get to that weight loss phase to make. But if you're not aware of those simple swaps that will change your calorie intake and you're just cutting out whole food groups instead, you're really limiting yourself, and it's going to go back into that restrictive mindset.
Absolutely. The other thing too is creating that foundation around planning ahead, right?
Yeah.
That for me, if you can plan ahead with higher calories, right? Because again, it gives you, it's just easier. It's easier to do. You're not playing as much Tetris. So then you can have these meals like you're talking about, right? So I have, 3 to 5 breakfasts, 3 to 5 lunches, 3 to 5 dinners, 3 to 5 snacks that I create in my maintenance. Then all I have to do, I'm having this conversation with the client right now. She's like, she's going to Pinterest to rewrite the wheel.
Oh God.
And recreate. I'm like, no.
Get on Pinterest for your recipes.
I love Pinterest for recipes.
I just find that people get so overwhelmed with them.
Oh yeah. They're very much, it's like, crop your own corn. I'm like, okay, calm down, lady. Give me some freaking frozen corn. Okay.
Yeah, I'm not cropping my own corn.
Yeah. So anyway, it's true though. And then you're like just jump to the recipe already.
Yeah.
So she's on Pinterest. I'm like, no. Pull back. Take what you're already eating and just change the measurements of those recipes. So if it calls, at maintenance, you're at a cup of cooked rice. We do half a cup, right? Or we do 100 grams, maybe a whole banana is 100 grams. So we do 50. It does not have to be crazy. But again, if I already have those recipes in place and it's easier for me to create them when I have more calories allotted for me, then all I have to do is make those small tweaks once I get into the fat loss phase. So, and also too, for me specifically, if I'm in an intentional fat loss phase, which as I have said, not going to be in a lot of, if ever again, I always plan everything ahead.
Oh, yeah.
It's so much easier, you guys. Like we've talked about it before. If you're someone who tracks after the fact, tracks the night of, or tracks the next day, your progress in your fat loss phase is not going to be good. You're not going to see results. And you're going to be like, but I tracked. Like, did you?
Yeah.
It's like, you're just putting stuff in, trying to remember it. So
eating alcohol too.
Oh, that's a big one. Yes.
So I would say to kind of summarize the criteria or more so is we need to have been in maintenance. We need to have had some, I would say you don't need to track calories, but there needs to be an opportunity for you to have tracked to see portion sizes. But then there needs to be some way of measurement to make sure you're eating enough, whether like that's for some of our clients, a food journal or plate portions or hand guide or something like that, that you're consistently doing. Our stress management needs to be adequate, right? We need to not be going into this for like a body reset or to make up for anything or to cure a poor body image. And then we also need to have a consistent routine. So planning ahead, tracking ahead, looking at my week, and that becomes part of my routine. And then also, if we do have movement in our week, like it doesn't have to be strength training, but whether it's walking or movement, like, am I consistent with that? Because that's going to impact the reduction of calories that I have as well, too. Anything else there?
No, the habits are so important because especially norms. Yeah. So as we call them norms, it's incredibly important because, it can make a big difference. Especially as you age too, because like for me, my weight loss, and this is what we'll talk about when we talk about realistic expectations, has been a lot slower. It's not this like drastic change on the scale, but I do know my body composition is changing. So a lot of my habits are helping that too. So obviously strength training is going to help with body composition. NEAT, so increasing my total daily energy that I'm burning, but in a way that's not creating more stress on my body, right? My cold plunge and meditation, that's obviously managing stress, which again, cortisol. So we always think like energy in versus energy out, which is a law of thermodynamics, but there's so many other things at play that when we're really dialed in and we have a good foundation around them, it's just going to make that fat loss a bit easier. Now, again, we're talking fat loss because I'll lose fat and the scale will still be slow. So I just want to throw that out there too.
Yep.
Okay, so we feel good about that. We want to talk about what to actually expect in the fat loss phase. So one thing I don't think people get is this shit, it's hard. It's not easy, especially when we're doing it correctly, right? Yeah. People, and my clients do this, like I want to lean out and then they don't track on the weekends and they don't plan their meals ahead. And they think it's that same kind of flexibility you have in maintenance, because maintenance can be, again, we start there because it's easier. But I will have the conversation. Do you have like the mental, physical, emotional, and scheduling capacity for this? That is one of my major questions for them. Because if we have, we have to travel for work for the next 3 weeks, and then we have our family reunion, and then we have our, girls' trip to Nashville, probably not the best time to cut, right? Mm-hmm. Probably not the best time to cut. Or if you are going through a hard time, maybe you're going through a life change or, divorce or moving, probably not the best time to cut. Like I have a client right now going through hell and I love her so much and I could literally cry talking about it. And we're just focusing on taking care of her body right now. We're not even thinking about cutting anything. Yeah. We're just focusing on keeping her healthy, keeping her head above water. But that's such an important question. Do I have the physical, mental, emotional, and scheduling capacity to do this? Because it can almost feel like another job.
Well, and I don't like capacity, but also duration too. Right. So like you might have the capacity for the month of June, for example, but July comes around and like I've got this going on, this is happening. That's when maybe my divorce is going to be finalized or we're moving in July or whatever it is. Then your duration of your fat loss phase needs to change.
Yeah.
Or we need to say maybe not yet.
Right. Absolutely. It is going to be more rigid. Yep. It's going to require more of your time.
More boundaries.
Absolutely. So let's talk about realistic expectations. Okay. If you're doing it with us, it will not look like these people say on Instagram, like, lose 15 pounds in 8 weeks, or look at how I lost 20 pounds in 8 weeks. I saw that like 2 days ago and I'm going to be like, stop it. You did that. The faster you lose it, the faster it comes back. I need you all to understand that. And most likely it's a lot of muscle. But realistically, you may lose half a pound to a pound, maybe a pound and a half if you are taller or in a larger body in general. But that's about it.
I know.
A 250 to 500 calorie deficit is what we put our clients in. And what I'm going to do is start at the highest point.
Yeah.
If we can see movement at a 200 to 250 calorie deficit, then let's do it. And I tell my clients that all the time, like, let's just start here and see what your body does. And they're like, okay, right. I'm in that deficit. My coach says it's okay. And then they're like, I should pull up her stuff. My client's like, I really want to go into a bit more of a fat loss phase. And I was like, okay, well, we can definitely do that. I think you're ready. And she goes, actually, you know what? Now that I'm looking at it, she's at maintenance, and when she like tracks consistently, she's losing weight even at maintenance. Or I think, no, we're at a small cut. I'm sorry, we're in a small deficit. But we'll start there because if we're going to plateau eventually, and then once we plateau, we have a little bit more room to bring it down some. So for me, it's when we do it that way, it's the progress, if you're only looking at the scale, is going to be a bit slower.
Yeah.
But we're also doing it correctly. So that's my take on
Sometimes,
that.
just to counter that, is sometimes I'll ask the client and walk them through it too, of like going from 250 to 500, like what is the difference and what is the expectations? Because so say, for example, you want to lose a pound per week. And so I'm like, okay, that's a 500 calorie deficit.
I interrupt this episode to bring you our 2nd July promo, 50% off the Mindset Method Self-Guided Coaching Program. This curriculum walks you through my mindset method to help you recreate a relationship with your body, food, and exercise. In this program, you're going to receive a weekly mindset reflection based in the method: the know, the name, the notice, and the nurture. On top of that, you're going to receive daily journal prompts to help you enhance what you're learning in that week's time. You'll also get access to our community forum, and most importantly, access to a Q&A link where you can get coaching from Coach Amanda and I in this exact podcast on everything you're learning. So if you're someone who's looking to recreate her relationship with who she sees in the mirror, how she trains herself, how she feeds herself, or wants to quiet the food noise or the toxic resilience, click our show notes below to receive 50% off using the code INTRO50. Now, back to the show.
If they can't maintain that, then I rather do the 250 and just let it ride a little bit longer if there's a certain weight loss goal or anything like that. Like, so you have to, as the person listening to this, is be really realistic with yourself. So do I have the time? Do I have the commitment strategy? Do I have the structure? But also, like, realistically, is it a lot for me to cut 500 calories? And if it is, it's totally okay to do 250. You will probably get better results because you can stay consistent there, as opposed to the 500 and walking through those shame guilt cycles and then resetting every couple weeks because you fucked up.
Yeah, absolutely. And, one of the other things, which can be a bit rigid for people, is also the, tracking itself. So when you're in this phase, you have to be pretty precise in your tracking, because again, 250 to 500 calories can be very easy to eat outside of, right?
Yeah.
Or if I have these bites, licks, and tastes, I had a client talk about they were on the road and her daughter, they grabbed a couple of little hot dogs for her and cut them up. And she didn't finish them, so mom just popped it in her mouth. Luckily, she had messaged me about it. And I told her, she goes, should I track this? I was like, listen, we're not going to be that crazy mindset around tracking. However, if this becomes a pattern, then we have an issue. Then we have to track. If this becomes a 4th meal every day because you keep doing it, throughout your day, and now we literally could have had 300-400 calories, which could be a meal, then yes, then we need to be tracking it. But what I was explaining to her is that, number one, why are we even eating it if we're not hungry? So there's that mental health piece. But number two, for her, she's at maintenance. But if she wasn't, that would be a time where I'm like, yeah, actually, you need to get more precise with your tracking. And the best way to do that for me is track ahead, which we already talked about.
Yes.
Track ahead.
Yeah.
I have a friend who I coach, and she's listening. I can't get her to track ahead. I'm like, I know what you're doing this weekend. I know you. I go out with you. And she wants to have a lean physique. She's already in great shape. She wants to lean out. And I'm like, I'm sorry, dude. You've got to change your behaviors. You've got to and again, I'm not going to lie to you guys. It can get obsessive. I'm looking at the menu. I'm looking at the thing on Yelp. I'm going to ChatGPT, asking the calories that it might be because I don't have the nutrition online, or I'm going to Nutrition X, and I put that in. Then I plan the rest of my day around that. Oh, okay. Well, I'm going to be over about 300 calories. So then I might balance it in the rest of the week because I want to get that 1 pound of weight loss per week. But
Yeah,
again,
but that's your
mental
trade-off.
capacity.
That's like,
Right.
again, your trade-off. Like, so if you're not going to do that, then you need to change your expectations and what you're trying to do.
Yep.
And that's kind of like, that's the sorry ass conversation we have to have a lot of the time with the clients, is like, okay, but this is your goal. This is the reality of it. Unfortunately, like, yeah, I am sorry. It does suck. It is unfortunate, but we weren't meant to be in a deficit forever. Like you have been. It hasn't been working. This is how we can get it to work. But if you're not willing to do these trade-offs, then we have to change your expectation. Because so maybe for this friend, like if she already looks relatively like a-okay, right? And she just wants to lean out just a little bit more to get that edge. Well, is that little bit edge worth it?
Right.
If you're not going to do that, and be honest, like, because if you're like, ugh, it's not, then stop having this conversation with yourself,
Right.
because it's going to torture you.
All right. I ask them all the time, like, where does this fit in your life right now?
Yeah.
Like, is this up there, number 1, 2, or 3, where socializing is underneath it? And most of the time it's not for a lot of people. They want to socialize and keep doing the things they were doing when they were at maintenance, or maybe even before working with us. And they don't realize that a healthy way of losing fat is having boundaries, and so that is a big one for us. The other thing too is just paying attention to your body too, right? So I'm constantly asking, like, how are you feeling? How are your lifts? Do we need to make adjustments to your carbohydrates or anything like that? Not only really, it's about like checking in and just seeing how the client is doing. If we're starting to hear a lot of like fatigue or lack of recovery, or as we were talking about here, this kind of off and on mentality, I'm probably going to take him out of that cut pretty quickly.
Yeah,
Like,
I'm known to be like, nope, we're done.
We're done.
Like,
I do too.
I've had this conversation with you for 2 weeks now. I'm not going to do a third. We're done. And all of a sudden on your third week, you're not going to get your shit together because something's going on that we're done. I'm over it. Yeah.
And they might get upset about it, but it's that reality of like, it's not working, whether that's because you are going through like a perimenopause or menopause transition and your body just doesn't like, remember guys, being in a deficit is a stress on your body. Your body, especially as women, does not like to be in this, starvation phase. That's not what it is, but it doesn't like to be in this low calorie or negative energy balance, as we talked about it. And that is a stress on our body. Then we add to that, excessive exercise, if you're doing it the wrong way, and our bodies who may be doing all the things and not seeing results. And so if we're getting more fatigued, if we're not recovering, something else is going on and we got to move out of that. And or behaviorally, our beliefs or behaviorally, we're doing something that is causing us to not see results. And we need to get back to the mindset around that and the beliefs that are causing that. Because until you do that, again, like I said, nothing's going to matter. So good. We kind of touched on it, but we also want to realize like the scale's not going to move all the time. Like you're going to hit plateaus in your fat loss phase. And that is not a reason to stop. Like it boggles my mind, this idea, well, it's not working. The scale's not moving, so I'm going to stop. I don't like, and I'm like a therapist. I still don't get it.
Yeah.
I get it.
I need you to recall the other data then. Because well, think about it. It's because my other thing too with the whole weight loss culture or whatever is they want the scale to go down, 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 down. Well, as you and I both know, the scale does not go down every day, even if we are in a fat loss phase, right? Like I may weigh 145 today and tomorrow I may weigh 147, but I am in a 500 calorie deficit. So it doesn't mean I gained 2 pounds overnight. But at some point, when I find that like when the scale stops moving, if there's still progress to be made and I feel like the client is checking off the boxes and doing relatively well, but this is the holdup, it's like, well, at some point we're going to have to get used to the scale not always going down if we haven't already, right? And so let's work on that relationship. Also, maybe this is a time where we take the scale away, or I let you ride it out for another 2 weeks before we even have a discussion of the scale so you can see the fluctuations. But there are so many other ways to track progress. Like some of our clients have gone into a weight loss phase without the scale at all, right? So let's make sure when I have anybody at any phase, I want body measurements for sure, at least the waist measurement. I want an honest assessment on how your clothes fit, not an emotional assessment, but an honest, right? Because there's a difference.
Yes.
And then we also want pictures because I think those are great. From like week to week, it's really hard to see changes, but if you look at 3 weeks or every other week or once a month, that's really nice. And again, same clothes, same lighting, all the things that we recommend. All those data points are going to add up to what we're trying to do. And that's actually going to give us I don't want to say our answer, but our progress report, as opposed to just the scale being the progress report.
Right. Yeah. I want to kind of flip that on its head too. You've got to do those things.
Yeah.
Like we talked about tracking. I need the information. People will be like, I don't understand. The scale's not moving. I had to go through a thorough overview of my client because she's like, I don't understand. And I'm like, well, you tracked consistently for 3 weeks and we've been doing this for 9. What did you expect?
Yeah.
Right. And then when I looked at her food even more, I was like, and you're eating about 60% processed foods.
Ooh.
I said, normally I give my clients autonomy in what they eat, but when we're complaining about, the scale not moving, that's when I get a little bit more rigid in the fact. It wasn't like, I don't remember the exact percentage.
Yeah.
But it was enough for me to be like, okay, well, let's start here. And consistently giving me data. I can't make an educated decision without data. And I shared this with you guys earlier. I had a client who was scared to put her food in because she would go over all the time. So she wouldn't put it in at all. So we had a conversation about that. She's a nurse. And I had compared it to vital signs that she would need to make an educated decision for her patients. And I said, if I don't have that data, I can't make an educated decision for you. So let's agree, no matter if you go over, I am not going to be upset with that. I need it. And what I realized is that she was going over consistently 2 days a week. So what did I do? I gave her 2 high calorie days and just gave her 5 lower calorie days that on average, if she hits them, she's in that deficit. It's a pretty moderate deficit, but she's still in that deficit. And she was like, this is so perfect for me. This works for me. I cannot believe that that's what it is. And I said, exactly. And then not until you got over putting food in, did I understand that. And I had another client, and unfortunately, we didn't end on the best terms. She would never do measurements. She would never do photos. She'd weigh herself intermittently. And she would track intermittently. She would do her workouts. Now, people are probably thinking, well, why'd you keep her on as a client? She went through a lot. And my goal was like managing stress, keeping her healthy, right? Working and meeting her where she was at. But then she kind of dropped this bomb on me of, oh my gosh, I've gained all this weight. It was the reverse diet that did it. And I felt terrible kind of being like, well, what do you think behaviorally caused this? Because we've been focusing on just trying to keep your head above water because that's what you said that you needed. But you now are saying like, no, this whole time I needed to be in a fat loss. You know what I mean? Like, and she didn't do anything that would have promoted fat loss, but then she got really upset. So it goes back to expectations too, even though I set those all the time with her, but it's almost like she wasn't listening, But just going back to like the measurements are necessary. the waist circumference are necessary. Or I'm sorry, the progress photo is also necessary. The data around the food is necessary. We don't know, what we don't know. So
Right.
just wanted to say that as well. And just know, again, like, you're going to deal with plateaus, but you're going to deal with plateaus in like one area,
Mhm.
usually the scale, or maybe your photos week over week. Maybe your photos, I've seen this, week over week have actually looked different.
Yeah.
And then there's that one week they don't, and you're like, what?
I know.
Wait a minute.
Yeah. I've gotten that too with clients of like, I'm like, look at the 3-week difference. They're like, but from last week, it doesn't look the same. I'm like, it's not going to, it's not like your body's going to be like, oh, it's been a week, change. Oh, another week, change. It's a slow thing. But that's one thing I tell clients, especially our newer clients, of like, take the photos. They're the ugliest things you'll ever take in your life. It's just not an attractive thing. Like, and I am fully aware of that because I do mine too. But one of the things I wish I would have had is my photos from like my first day to today.
Oh, yeah.
And at some point you're going to really want them because they're going to show you the progress that you've made without this restrictive dieting, or like when you have gone into a weight loss phase, like we're talking about, in a way that you did it where you felt good doing it. Like we're talking about you have to be more restrictive, but you could still go out for dinner with friends, right? Whereas some clients are like, no, I can't even go out because then I'll overeat. Or like you could technically have the cake, but making sure that it fluctuates throughout your day. Look at all this progress that you've learned as well, just in that phase.
Yeah.
So I like, in talking about how you feel, like monitoring that constantly too is important.
Absolutely. No, it's being able to recognize the small wins, right? Recognize the small progress along the way, because it sucks.
It does suck.
It sucks. I don't know why people are like, oh, it's so, no, it sucks. And you'll want to give up because it sucks. So when you are like, no, I made this commitment to myself, if you want to give up, you can give up too. But if you're like, no, I only have a couple more weeks. And that's something we haven't talked about. It's just kind of like what it should look like. So we'll touch on that in a second. I have a few more weeks. I look at all these things I'm doing, these small wins that will give you motivation to keep going. So let's talk about logistics.
Okay.
Timeframe reality. What do you think?
4 to 12 weeks, maybe 16 if I'm feeling nice. Maybe. And that's with a diet break in between.
Yeah. Talk about a diet break so people know.
So, okay. So 4 to 6 weeks, or 4 to 12 weeks, essentially, I would say a client's going to be in a weight loss phase for the 4 to 12 weeks. Like, there's not going to be essentially a break from the weight loss. And like you were saying, I think you said when the client's assessing like, crap, I really don't want to do this anymore. The time frame is really important, because maybe you don't want to do this anymore at the 8-week mark. And with the photos and all of the data, maybe we do call it good at the 8-week mark. Or maybe if you say, oh, realistically, I only have 4 more weeks, I don't really have anything going on, I can do it for that much longer. That's why time frame is also important too, right? So, but if I have a client, say maybe they're going to, maybe they're getting married. We'll take a client, for example, that I'm thinking of in particular. So we want to lose weight. We've got maybe about 16 to 20 pounds that we want to lose. Okay. Or maybe even 12, but we're going to do a moderate deficit. So maybe that 250. And I'm not doing the exact numbers in my head, so some of this might be wrong if we actually did the data on it. But if they're going to go into like a 6-week cut, or 16-week cut, excuse me, that's a really long time. So that's what
4 months.
4 months. That's a fourth of the year. That's a lot. So what I want to do is say, what do we have coming up? So maybe we're going into the cut, and the only thing we have coming up is this wedding that I'm getting married. And I'm going to go, great. Like, let's make the cut at that halfway point, or maybe like the 3/4 point, or some kind of middle point.
Maybe your bachelorette party.
Yeah, maybe your bachelorette party. And let's just give you the calories back, essentially, and say, let's just eat at maintenance and feel good. And kind of take just a moment to break away from the diet, because it helps break it up. It also helps you say, okay, so if I'm going to do the cut for 7 weeks, break at my 8-week, and then I'm going to do it for another 8 weeks, then it says, okay, I only have to do this for 7 weeks. then I get like my food back. I don't want to say like I'm holding food away from you, but I get the extra calories back. And then I only have to do it for 8 more weeks. So thinking of it like almost like school, right? Like I only have to get through this class for 4 months, like, and then I'm
Right.
done with it. And then I'll take
Mhm.
summer school as a break or a summer as a break, and then I'm going to go through class again.
Right.
And it's just a nice way to keep clients compliant,
Right.
and also to set up a structure of like relief as well.
Right. I tell people all the time, I go, look, that food's going to be there when you're done.
Yep.
You have 2 more weeks. You can go to Giordano's and have deep dish pizza. So speaking of that, let's talk about the swaps, because the swaps get swapping. And if you guys don't know what swaps are, these are when you take your whole eggs and you eat egg whites.
Mhm.
Because why? Because after that yolk, we get rid of that yolk, we're reducing the fat. Fat per gram is higher than carbs and protein. So normally the swaps are going to be around your fats. So you can go into like lower fat or non-fat dairy products, Greek yogurt, cottage cheese. You can go into lower fat meats, as you talked about earlier. So chicken breasts instead of chicken thighs. You may go to like a 99% ground turkey instead of a 95 or 90, what is it, 96 for, or 93, thank you, 7 ground turkey or ground beef. You may switch to, shrimp instead of salmon. Oh, yep, there's another one. Tuna, right? Tuna is going to be a swap. Cauliflower rice instead of regular rice, or zoodles instead of, your whole wheat noodles. You can still have that stuff. You just have to, figure out what it looks like. You don't get a lot of it. Like 2 ounces of pasta is a serving, and I want more of it.
Sure.
What else? What other swaps do you make? Like sugar-free stuff sometimes?
Like, so for my clients who do the Starbucks runs, like if you're getting the Frappuccino or the double latte thingy with a bunch of crap in it, I'm like, can't we just get a coffee with like some creamer? Like this, I mean, that cuts out half of it right there. With alcohol, I'm like, okay, if you like wine, great, but realize wine is higher calorie than maybe tequila and soda. Or just don't have the alcohol, like try and cut. Like to me, that's one of the easiest wins is cut back on the alcohol.
Yeah.
If you really want to
1,000.
do. Yeah, like that, because I mean, sometimes that can be, if you have 2 glasses of wine, usually those are about 110 calories. So 200 calories right there. Okay, well, that's half the day if you're doing in a 500 calorie deficit. Right. So that, and also wine, or drinking at night, I'm kind of like, what are we managing that we're trying to? So that comes with a whole nother caveat. If they're going to like dressings is a big one too, to be aware of, and oils.
Old house, baby.
Yeah. So finding a lower calorie, like Primal Kitchen has some dressings that are lower calorie, but even just using like maybe just some lemon, like again, I know it doesn't taste as good as like the creamy ranch, but that for 12 weeks, suck it up,
Right. Or switching, like I think of my hummus instead of my pita, I'll do cucumber or carrots.
Yes.
I'm turning things into salads, unfortunately, that, should be like a sandwich.
Right. Well, or even like, so thinking of a sandwich, instead of double bun or bun on top and bottom, take off half the bun. Right. Or else for bunless on a burger. So those are like simple things, or even so dining out, right? If I'm going to go out, maybe I'm going to have a burger. So burger with no bun. And then as my side, instead of fries, maybe I do some steamed veggies, no butter.
Yeah.
Those are swaps we're talking about. Or maybe even I don't go out to eat with a friend if we want to catch up and we go for a walk, or we do a yoga class together, or maybe we just grab tea and coffee and whatnot. And that's, I mean, if that's not you, it's okay. But realize that there are more options available for getting the social engagement while still making those connections while you're in this weight loss phase.
Yeah. And just realize, like, Crystal and I were talking about this. She's like, I don't understand. Like, people don't get it. Meals out, even healthy ones, still have hidden calories and can be very high calorie. This happens all, oh, well, I got the salmon. Yeah, that salmon was probably like 800 to 1200 calories, like the whole dish, right? They don't tell you the salmon came with, this butternut squash spread and this
Right.
Brussels sprouts, and it had a little bit of olive oil on it,
Well,
or more than a little bit.
Sprouts and the balsamic on that, and then cooked in
Right.
the oil, and then cooked in like the lemon butter sauce.
Yeah. Yeah. It's even remember, we talked about this already. I had a cauliflower turmeric rice, chicken breast, steamed veggies, and it had a sauce. And I was like, even if this sauce is a bit higher, this can't be more than like 500, 600 calories. It was double the calories once I looked at it. So we are going to have to make, we're going to have to restrict ourselves a bit and be a little bit more antisocial during this time. Or, as you were saying, have other ways of socializing that aren't, eating and drinking. Okay. Anything else?
Nope. We covered swaps. We covered expectations, other ways. Why don't we talk a little bit about like red flags, if that's happening, just to say like, hey, if this is happening. So red flags meaning this is your weight loss phase is going south, and it'll be better for you to come out of it, whether it's a coach recognizing that or you're recognizing it before it's too late. So like your sleep's getting worse. Your strength in the gym is declining significantly. Now, when we're in a fat loss phase, we would expect, strength to kind of stay the same or come down a little bit, just because there's not energy there to produce extra. But if it's a significant decline, that's an issue. More irritability, more frustration, because you think you're going to be hangry,
Right. Well, that's something we didn't touch on earlier, is like those swaps, like those higher volume foods should help a bit with that hunger, because we're, the whole foods, the protein, the, whatever you're adding in, it should be high volume, low calorie. Those are going to help, but you're still going to be freaking hungry. So sorry to interrupt.
No, you're okay. I think that's important. Like, you're going to be hungry. It's okay. But if you're being hangry and irritable and mean and nasty because you're hungry, that's a different hunger than like the hungry, like, to describe it, because I've had clients ask me of like, okay, what is the expectation of hungry? It should be, I'm hungry, but I can hold out until my next snack or meal.
Right. I say it's like a 7 out of 10
Yes.
on the hunger fullness scale,
Yes.
like 6, 7 out of 10.
Yes.
Where
So
like 8 would
that.
be maintenance, 9 would be like 9, 10 would be surplus.
Plus, yeah.
I agree with that.
Hormones too.
Well, and one big thing is you aren't seeing change, which I touched on earlier. Yes. Something's going on. Your body doesn't like it. It's not behavioral, which you need to be the person to be honest about that. And if that's the case, why are we doing this? Why are we? Something's going on there. So good. So let's talk about coming out of a fat loss phase, because that's also equally important. We did a whole podcast on this, on the reverse diet, but if you would give them a refresher on coming out of it.
Okay. So when we're in a weight loss phase, your calories are lower. The reverse diet is what we use. And so what a reverse diet is essentially adding calories over time to return you to a maintenance level. One thing we need to remember is your maintenance level potentially most likely has changed because your body has adapted to having less input in. So for example, let's say your calorie maintenance before was 2,000. It might not be 2,000 anymore. It might be 1819, 1850, 1750. It depends, right? And so that's something you want to cautiously approach, because say you do just go back to 2,000 and your body's maintenance is actually 1,800 for whatever reason. Now you're in a surplus, so you're swinging the other way. So you can do this slowly and gradually. So sometimes I have clients do 50 calories every 3 to 5 days and kind of monitor as it gets, as that weight starts to plateau a little bit, or maybe we're starting to feel a bit more full and like more filled throughout the day. You could do 100 calories per week. I've had clients who have literally done like 50 calories per week and assess and take it slow. But at some point, you do want to get out of this weight loss. Well, actually, at your ending point of your weeks that you determine that you're going into this weight loss phase, you want to be done. And that's the other thing that we'll see people do too, is they're like, oh, but I just have like 2 more pounds. Can we just go 2 more weeks? And it's like, no, let's just be done, because during that reverse phase, you might end up losing the 2
pounds. Thank you.
Because you're still.
You think they just like go straight, like the reverse? It's that
Like-
mentality, like I'm going straight to maintenance. No, we're slowly, you're still in a
Right.
calorie deficit until you're not, is the way I
Right.
explain it to people. You're
And
still in a calorie
ideally-
deficit until your body tells me you're not.
And going back to our maintenance conversation, ideally you did reverse diet into your maintenance before. So there is some familiarity with it. Now the
Yeah.
intention is different, but the familiarity should be there of like, look, we're slowly adding calories. It doesn't mean you're going to gain all this weight back too. So,
Right.
and then
That's why that's important.
Yeah.
Yeah. And staying at maintenance for the majority of your year.
Yes.
You know, I explain this as, you know, as an athlete, you have off season, preseason, in season, and post season. Your off season is your maintenance. That's where we're building skills and foundations to make us better at life, to make our bodies better, which you're going to be the healthiest version of yourself at maintenance.
Mhm.
And then in the preseason, we're kind of going into that slow deficit, right? As we talked about, conservative deficit until we get into that 500 calorie range, which is the in season, which is again an intentional fat loss phase. And then once we're done, we're going to then reverse out, which is our postseason. We're going to reverse out of it to maintenance, but the majority of our year is actually in the off season. And if you can look at this from a yearly perspective and base your cuts around upcoming events, if that makes sense for you. Because again, it may not. You may not have enough time in between the events and when you want to cut. You know, you may have all this stuff going on. There's other ways of doing it. You can always go, you can be at maintenance for 3 weeks and do a mini cut for 2 weeks, maintenance for 3 weeks. And now, again, we can talk about that later about like calorie cycling and stuff like that. But I usually base it around a trip. And if I'm doing it around the trip, I'm also going to do a photo shoot during that same time.
And I think one thing too is you base it around your trip. So say you have a trip coming up in August. That's a little bit too soon, in my opinion, for when this releases. But so let's say this is, let's go into next February as your trip. How about that? Is you're going to look at that trip and then work backwards, right?
Yes.
So for me, for example, say I've got a trip in February and I know I'm going to want to take a slow reverse, and maybe that's going to take me 4 weeks. So I know, okay, we'll say February 1st is my trip. Okay, well, January 1st, I need to be slowly reversing. So there's 4 weeks there. Now, where is my 12 weeks going backwards from on that? So December, November, October. Okay, so I would start October 1st, but also what do I have coming up? So maybe for like my family does something really big every Thanksgiving, but Christmas isn't really a big deal. Okay, so then maybe in November that week, we do that diet break like we talked about for maybe 3 to 5 days. So I don't have to do it for the whole week. But that's how far in advance you're planning these cuts or these weight losses too. It's not like, oh, I had a bad weekend, I'll start right now. Like,
that's the absolute worst way to do it. That's only going to keep you stuck when you have that mentality. Doing it in this way, making sure you're going into it with the right intentions. Because, hey, it's okay to want to lose some body fat, you know, as long as we're respecting our bodies, right? We're respecting food, we're respecting movement. If we're not doing it from a respect place, we're doing it from a self-hate, a punishment, you were a bad girl place, not the way to do it. You need to do it in the right headspace. So cool. Anything else?
No.
All right. Well, if you guys like this information, you can give us a follow on our socials. You can find me at Mindset of Matter Coaching. You can find Amanda at fitbyamanda.az. You can also find us on YouTube at The Mindset of Matter, where you can find these recordings. And if you're like, you know what, I love this process. I would love to figure out once and for all how to do it the slow way, which is the fastest way and the right way. You can find our link to our clarity call below. And if you have any questions, comments, concerns, please just shoot them down in the comments. We've got some comments.
Did we?
People love it. People loved your doula.
Oh, really? Yeah, I
Yeah,
had some comments from that too, but I didn't,
Yeah.
I don't, well, listen on Apple Podcasts, so I don't see the comments on those ones.
I know it's on Spotify.
Oh, they were on Spotify. Oh,
Yeah.
you can comment on Spotify.
I know. So also, if you love this podcast, please subscribe. The more subscribers we have, the more ratings we have, the more that the metaverse will share us. So please subscribe and please give us a 5-star rating and review if you find this information helpful. But if you only want to walk away with one thing, remember this one thing.
What you say in the mind,
you see in the mirror. Bye-bye.
Bye.